Yo, 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 what's poppin', everyone? This is your boy, Des the King, and we back yet again with another episode of King Talk TV. Today, I have another special guest. This will be his third time on the show. Never had anyone on my show three times, so that's a big thing for me. Goes by the name of Kenya, aka If Clark Kent Was Back Black, which is I think is a cool name for his Instagram. Army guy, CrossFit guy, extremely strong, extremely smart. But he, like I said, was on the show before to discuss this. This is actually part two of an article that he wrote that he sent me a while back called 31 Years, 31 Lessons. And he essentially wrote down a lesson for each year of his life. And in part one, we went through 1 through 10. Today, we're going to go through 11 through 20, I think. And it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So please watch to the end. If you watch this on YouTube, please give me a like. Leave your comment in the thoughts. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And consider subscribing if you feel led to. And as soon as he checks in, we're going to get this conversation started. I do.
There we go. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get. There we go. Okay.
I'm glad we finally got it, man. How you doing?
All good, man. I was just sitting here at my computer doing some stuff for this management company stuff we got going on, and yeah, it's a headache sometimes.
Cool, bro. Bro, man. Thank you for jumping on today, man. I was just telling the audience here that this is your third time on my show, man. This is the most that
It's a
one
record.
person ever been on my show. So I appreciate you for that, man. But yeah, today, man, I was telling everyone this is the part two of the 31 years, 31 lessons article that you wrote a while back and you sent it to me a while back. We did a part one, which was great. If you guys want to check that out, please go to my YouTube channel, Des the King, and you can find part one. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll link that below in the description. And yes, man. So basically, just real quick, you're an Army guy, CrossFit athlete, super strong. Been experienced a lot of things in life, being military and just traveling in general. Just real quick, man. I know you explained this in part one, but what inspired you to write these lessons?
Um, mm. Well, if everybody doesn't know, I have two kids. So I have a little girl and a little boy. And I was like, man, there's a lot of things that I didn't know as a teenager or the kid that I wish somebody had told me. I give my mom all the reverence that she deserves for all the things she did, was able to teach me, but like she's a woman. I never had a man's perspective. I didn't have the best male role models growing up until about 16, 17 years old. And I mean, that's why I initially wrote them. And it was like a mind dump. So every day that I get up, I open up this little black notebook and I write down how I feel. It's like a form of therapy. And then at the end of the day, I write down what happened, how I felt about it, how I addressed it, et cetera, et cetera. And it all kind of like just piled up in all these little notebooks I have on the bookshelf.
Cool, man. And each lesson is very insightful, man. And you inspired me. I didn't start on mine yet, but you inspired me to want to take each year of my life and do the same thing. So I appreciate you writing, and we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna give a quick. I'm just gonna mention the first 10 lessons, just to mention them, and then we're
Hmm.
gonna go through 11 through I think 20 today,
Okay.
and we'll set up part three for sometime in the future. So yeah, lesson number one is love hard. Heartbreak is necessary. And again, if you guys want the breakdown on how Kenya, he goes into more detail on this in part one, which will be in my YouTube channel, and I have the link below for that. Okay, so lesson number one was love hard. Heartbreak is necessary. Take not one thing for granted, which is year two or lesson two. Lesson three, practice mindfulness. Lesson four, enjoy the pain just as much as the pleasure. I like that. Lesson 5, two wrongs never make a right. Uh, perfect practice makes perfect. Lesson 6. Lesson 7, discipline is the bridge or the great separator. That one was a good one. Lesson 8, don't be afraid to not know. Lesson 9, knowledge and money have a lot in common. And finally, lesson 10, it's truly you versus you. Where we're going to start off today is lesson 11. Everyone has value. Use it, cultivate it. And this is what you wrote about that. I used to think that value was measured in what someone or myself had. That is so far from what is true. It's quite hilarious thinking back. You have value. I have value. And just like knowledge from the previous point, it is up to us not only to use it, but cultivate it in ourselves and others. Stewardship is the cornerstone of humanity and the future of yourself and those you obtain that value and knowledge from as well. I agree with that, Kenya. Everyone truly has value. Everyone has a purpose. Everyone has a reason why they're here on this planet, and everyone has talents, individual talents that we are supposed to use, and like you say, cultivate and give value to other people around the world. So, my question is for you for this lesson is, can you take us through the process of how you discovered your value and the steps that you took to cultivate that value?
Okay. I'll start with like a little bit of a like backdrop to give some point of clarity to it.
Please do.
I had I had like, the number 6 stands out in my mind like a lot because I've had 6 really close friends in the Army kill themselves, like take their lives from suicide. And at those points, that's exactly where people don't understand their value, like they don't see it. Like I've been close to that point, and I'm like, I don't see value in myself. Whatever life insurance my family gets is way more valuable than me. Da da da. That's what I felt, and I kind of took that thought process, and I went, okay, I'm valuable in these aspects. This is what I bring to the table. This is what I bring to this team. And when I realized what I brought to a team or to an organization or to myself or to my family, that kind of gave me the insight to kind of use, or not even use, but to bring a more concrete definition to the word stewardship. And anybody that doesn't know what stewardship is, it's essentially leaving something better than what you found it. Because more often than not, in the Army especially, people just kind of pick up and leave. When they get a new job, they PCS somewhere else, they pick up and leave, and they're like, okay, sucks to suck, it's on you now. You figured out, you build all these things that you need to build for this position. And I always thought it really, really, really important to kind of look back on myself and realize that I do have value. And when I realized that was around year 3 in the Army, when I understood that I have good people skills, like I'm charismatic. I hate to admit, I think it's the first time I admitted that out loud, but
Really?
yeah, I have
Wow.
good
Okay.
charisma. Yeah, and I can negotiate with people. I can kind of see where you're coming from, step outside myself, and then go, hey, I need this, you need that. Let's work and figure this out. Like let's benefit from each other. And that's kind of how I realize where my value lies.
Awesome, man. The communication value, that's something I believe I share with you, man. And that is probably one of the top traits a person can have. I mean, imagine going through life not having the ability to communicate well with people. You know how tough that would
Bro,
be?
bro,
Right.
bro. Like I just had a situation where I'm trying to help a friend, and I'm not gonna get into details because he or she, I'm not gonna say gender, will probably be here and see me talking about this and be pissed off about it. But yeah, like if you don't communicate in a relationship, that's everything. Like before I go somewhere, I go, hey Tam, I'm thinking about doing this. Like we went to Top Golf last night. She was at work. I went, hey, um, you want to go to Topgolf? She was like, yeah, sure. She got home. She felt tired. I'm like, do you still want to go to Topgolf? Are you sure? She's like, yeah, sure. I'm good. I'm still good to go. I'm like, do you need something before you go? She's like, yeah, I need to eat. Communicating. I wasn't always the best at that.
The fact that you had to dig in that hard though to get that out, you know what I mean?
You just
To,
have to a little
yeah,
bit, you know?
yeah. I saw your clip with your swing, man. That was great, bro. That was great to see you go for that drive and
Oh yeah.
top.
No, it's funny because I figured out how to hit a golf ball yesterday. Like I
Oh,
just
wow.
said, I was like, oh, this is like people have natural athletic ability. I think I have natural athletic ability because I kind of walk into things and go, I don't know how to really do this. Let me figure it out. And I started trying new things and like I started driving the ball like 200 yards every time, 300 yards, and I was like, what in the heck?
Awesome, man. I see you. I see golf in your future, bro. After CrossFit.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. You know what? Probably. I'm probably gonna. I think John is in the chat and watching. I'm gonna to make him start going with me.
Go away. Awesome, man. And that's great. I'm glad that you figured that out, and more people need to put themselves in weird positions to find out what their value is, because it's only gonna make them better in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Let's move on. Lesson number 12. This one I thought was interesting. Movement is medicine, and this is what you said about that. Around middle school, I used to be overweight and fat, truthfully. But one summer, my mother, God rest her soul, made me go outside and walk everywhere. I cannot be more grateful for this. Most of the disease we face in our culture can be cured through exercise, movement. Movement has helped me cope with depression, PTSD, and anxiety. Uh, for in that small time, I am moving, I am focusing on the task at hand, and couldn't find a pill that would have the same effect. Move, lift, train, and do it religiously, for it has the ability to cure even the most crippling elements. Uh, that was great, man. And it was hard for me to think of a question to ask you for this because it's so pretty much self-evident to me, but not to everyone, not to everyone. So I thought about this is more of a philosophical question, if you will.
Yeah.
Why is movement itself, just movement, so essential for fitness and overall health? Why can't we just sit still and think our ways to fitness and health? Why can't we do that? Why do we have to get up and actually move?
I can talk about this for forever. Like, okay, so the statistic of a American man, right? This 197 pounds, a 40-inch waist, 5'9".
Mm.
That's a fat person. That's literally a pear-shaped dude. I have a 34-inch waist right now. That's just because I have big hips. So, you know, my mom, just big hips, it just can pass down. But like, you think about that, that's not conducive to like being any version of healthy for yourself. If you, if I take a car and I leave it outside, I don't turn it on, I don't do anything, and I leave it there for 20, 30 years, what do you think's going to happen to that car? It's not going to work. I'm going to have to do all these other things just to get it to go. And then probably 5 miles down the road, a strut's going to break. A tire's going to blow out. That's because I didn't move the car. I didn't do anything to it. I just let it sit there and I just watched it. Our bodies are the same way. We go into stress, right? We kind of that biological standpoint of we go into stressful moments. Our body produces cortisol. And it's essentially what what creates lactic acid in our bodies. But at the same time, that cortisol lubricates our joints to move. And the more you can put yourself in a stressful situation, like on a day-to-day basis, do something that's challenging where you have to create that kind of response to stress, the less and less cortisol is needed to get your body to lubricate to move, that flight or fight. And scientifically, like over the course of many, many studies, going back to almost like 1905 when they had some of the first Olympics, it's still true. It's 100% true. You need that in your life. You need to move. You need to do something that is hard. There is no way for you to conquer anything that is not physical unless you have physically challenging things in your life.
Yes. Great, man. What's sad was that statistics you gave about the average shape of American man or the average weight of the American man. You said what, 197 for 5'9"?
197
Jeez, bro. Jeez.
with a 40-inch waist.
40-inch waist. Wow. Wow, that's horrible, man.
His LDL's through the roof.
Yes. Yes, yes. Yeah, man, and I completely agree. If we're not doing anything, if we're not moving, nothing's going to get done. Nothing naturally gets done on its own. You know what I mean? You're going to have to apply energy for things to move. You know what I mean? You have a box sitting in the middle of your room. The box is going to stay there, like you say, or a car. You gave the example of a car. The car is going to stay there. The car's not going to move unless you open the door, put keys in the ignition, and turn it on. You understand? And that's the only way that things are going to get done in your life. You have to turn on the ignition, so to speak, to your body and get it moving. What did my man say? Hey man, you leave my phone. Exactly.
John's been blown up a whole lot. So to give you a reference, John is one of my really, like, he's probably one of the few friends I got left here besides you and, you know, your brother and everything. But yeah, John had a lot of deployments. He did his time in the Army, respectfully. We sit down and chill out with each other. He bakes a lot. This man's about to open a bakery food truck, and it's amazing. I test out all of his stuff when he makes it. It's pretty cool. But yeah, John said, leave my 40-inch waist alone. John is completely disabled. He's 100% disabled, just like me, from the Army. So yeah. But he's powerless. He's strong as shit.
Does he really have a 40-inch waist? Like, really? Or is he just...
Oh, I don't know. You got to ask him, hey, John, do you have a 40-inch waist? I don't think you do. I think it's like a 36.
Oh, okay. But he's not like out of shape.
No. He bench pressed I think 535 the other day for like 3.
Okay, yeah. Well, he has a
40-inch
waist. Okay, I see.
He's just a big boy. He's
hey,
strong.
John, add, if you don't mind, John, follow me, and I'll follow you back. I want to have you on my show to talk about the powerlifting and the bake, if that's cool. So add me, bro. But thank you for that lesson number 12, man. That was awesome. Let's go on to lesson number 13, and that is take chances. And this is your summary on that. Growing up timid, I rarely ever thought highly of myself. And still today, I have a hard time doing so. But I have learned from service that the more healthy chances I take, the more I learn about myself and the more opportunities arise. Tell that person how you feel, run that race, apply for that job. Never self-select yourself out. Can you tell us a story, short story or long story, about how you took a healthy chance and how it taught you more about yourself?
Oh, I've done I think the Army, I think that South Korea has it figured out. Their males join the Army, they have to do a mandatory 2 years. They just have to. And it gives them some perspective on life and what a hard life actually is. Because I was in Korea, and they're called Katusas, Korean augmentation to the U.S. Army. We call them Katusas. And they understand. They want to do something outside the Army when they get done with their 2-year service. Usually they don't stay in. Very few stay in. But for me, I did, the little bit I can tell you, I was in 160th for a while. That was Special Operations Aviation, did that. And then I went, thought it was a good idea to go to just like essentially Delta Force, but the support side of it. And that was a big chance because no one knows anything about it. No one's allowed to tell you anything about it. When you leave and they debrief you, they're like, all this stuff is classified. You can't tell anybody about our selection process. Essentially, what I can tell you, they sent us to the mountains of Virginia. You do a state-to-state movement on your feet. across mountains, kind of like land navigating. And that was that was one of the most eye-opening experiences I had. Then later on, I went to do not green platoon, but do SFAS for Special Forces. I actually got selected for that, but I chose to go green and gold instead. And that was me going from being enlisted to an officer. And I probably should have took the SF thing. In hindsight, being 2020, I may have messed up. But one of the things that the guy that was at the Delta support selection, is he looked at me in the face. I was like having a hard day. It was like a lot of stuff we had to do in the day, and we hadn't slept for I think like 3 days. And he looked at me and he was like, "Are you quitting on yourself?" And I was like, "No, I don't think." I was like, "I don't think so." I'm like delirious. I'm like, "No, I don't think so." He like looks at me and he grabs my head and he's like, "Don't self-select yourself out. Don't ever do that." He's like, that line that I put in there when he said, "Tell a person how you feel," he looked at me. He was like, he's like, "If you have to tell everybody how you feel, run the race. If there's something you want to do in your life, try it. Don't ever self-select yourself out of it, ever." He's like, "Let somebody else tell you no. Until they tell you no, keep going. Even if they tell you no, try again. You might get it." That's been a story of my life. I get told no all the time. We just got off the phone with TYR, for Tutor Magda, and we manage him now. And yeah, we didn't take no for an answer. We kind of got what we wanted. So
Cool, man. I'm gonna start saying that, man. Don't self-select yourself out. You should have that on a shirt. You should take that and copyright that. Like, real talk. That is really nice, and that's an awesome story, man. What I want to say about that? Make them tell you no. I do like that, and that is I guess a sign of, what's the word? Persistence. You know,
be persistent.
Yeah. You don't want, even if they tell you, I guess, well, would you agree with this? Even if they tell you no one time, that doesn't mean stop. You know what I mean? You can get them to tell you no again, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
So
applied to be an officer like 3 times.
See?
2 times I failed. The 3rd time I made it. I could have quit, but I didn't.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Awesome. That's great. I like that. Don't self-select yourself out, everyone watching. Keep going and keep striving no matter what. Okay, so that was lesson 13.
13.
Lesson 14. It's never too late. At 31 years old and starting my fitness venture at 28, I realized that it's never too late for anything. No endeavor is too late in life. Love, career moves, or even fitness. Just as in the last point, never select yourself out. Never select yourself out of life. Leaving one career because it wasn't healthy for me was daunting, but I cannot be happier. And the following is a quote from George Eliot. It's never too late to be what you might have been. It's never too late. And this was another tough one that was hard for me to think of a question to ask you about. So I decided to take this route with this one. Yeah, because you're right. It's never too late. But can we wait too long to start something? Can we okay, it's never too late, but eventually we have to start doing it. We eventually have to do it.
Yeah. You think it's never too late. Like I'm making another career move. I'm going to PA school. Like I have an engineering degree. I have a counterintelligence degree. I have a political science degree. I got a master's in security studies with a minor in statistics. And I was like, I don't want to do any of those 4 things. I'm 31 years old. I'm like, oh, let me go be 3/4 of a doctor without the liability. That's what I'm doing now. Like, I'm like, okay, let me try this, see if I like it. We just had there was a guy, or it was in the news. He's 76 years old, just got his high school diploma.
Gee.
That's like, you can Google that. That's a legit thing. It popped up on my news feed 3 days ago, and I remembered. I was like, I'm gonna hold on to this. It seems really important. Like, this is pretty cool. But yeah, it's never too late. Like, it's really, I didn't pick up a barbell I think on deployment in 2013 was the first time I ever bench pressed or squatted or deadlifts, and that's all I really did. And I got really, really big. And then I don't even count that as time of training because CrossFit and Olympic weightlifting are totally different from powerlifting. So 3 years ago, I decided to pick up a barbell and walk into a CrossFit gym because one of my roommates, when I moved here, said, "Hey, come to the gym with me." I'm like, okay. And now the things I can do with weight and a barbell is pretty cool. Like, that's been 3 years.
Yes. Yes.
So it's never really too late. And I was 28 years old, man.
Right. Right. And you are a
Yeah.
beast, bro. You're an absolute beast in the barbells, man.
I got to get better at the other stuff. I was running yesterday. You saw that picture I posted? Like,
Yeah.
I was running. Like, all that sweat was real sweat. That was just gross.
Before we move on to the next one, man, I invited you to my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym. I think it was about a month ago now.
And I fractured my wrist.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because of the pulling.
Oh,
I have weak wrists. So, like, the pulling, it just got a fraction of lunate bone. It's all good. It's better now.
oh my gosh, man. Jeez, bro. You should have told me that happened, man, like a while ago. I'm glad you did. I would have felt crushed, like, man, why did
It's fine.
okay. I was going to ask, man. I was going to ask you, like, how you feel about that. Have you recovered? And you got a whole fractured wrist from it, man. That's terrible. That's a horrible thing.
It's okay.
It's looking good, man. That's good. That's good. Um, I, I have to have a separate show to talk to you about that, but I'm glad you came by and allowed me to beat you up. You allowed other people to beat you up. So it was great, man. It was great. It was great. But I'm just joking, man. But I had a great time with you that day. Okay, lesson number 15. You are small, but can have the biggest impact. Life can be intimidating every now and then for everybody. You are a tiny speck floating. You're a tiny speck floating on a rock in a vast universe, but realize that you can have a huge impact. If you affect the life of 10 people, and those 10 people go on to impact other lives in a generation, you have impacted the lives of 100,000 people easily. You are small but mighty. And I actually don't have a question for this, man, because but I do have this though. I don't know if you heard of Jordan Peterson. I think most people probably have. But
Yeah.
I watched a video of him about a week or so ago. He said something similar to that. I've been doing this YouTube thing for years now, bro, and I think like the average I get on the video is probably about 30 views or something like that. And that would get me down because I'm like, man, it's not nobody, people are watching it, but it's just like, man, like this is only like 30 views. How is this going to impact anybody really like that? But what you said here, bro, and what he said is that he said every human is basically a node in a vast network. We're all.
It's like game theory.
Yeah.
What he was talking about was game theory. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Game theory. So, and throughout our lives, kind of like what you said here, we're going to know, or at least came across at least 1,000 people. You know what I mean? And that this was before social media. You know what I'm saying? So just by me speaking to you, that person speaking to that person, we could potentially impact 1 million people just off one video or one conversation. You understand?
Yeah.
So yeah, could you elaborate more on what you said here?
So I can't take credit for the idea of essentially the idea of how many people you affect across a generation, because I had the ability after I read the book. The book is called Make Your Bed. It's by Rear Admiral William H. McRaven. He was a Navy SEAL for 22 years. He was a general. He was basically the equivalent of an Army general in the Navy for a very long time. I think he did like 36 years of military service, and he's a very smart guy. I had the opportunity to meet him after my commissioning ceremony when I went to Fort Sill, and he's not even tiny guy, Navy SEAL, did all these things, and he said that at a commencement speech for the Naval Academy. And you can go on YouTube and listen to it, and it's really true. If I can do one thing for one person, that one person is probably going to have some stewardship, hint, hint, and go and pass it on to somebody else who will keep passing it on. And that's essentially why I wrote these lessons, is because if my son can look at this and go, oh, I'm having a situation. Let me read this thing my dad gave me. He reads and he goes, oh, that applies to what I'm going through right now. What did he say? This. All right. Let me kind of apply that to my life. But yeah, you don't have to affect, like, people get so wrapped up, especially when I was in the Army, people get wrapped up in, oh, I need to change this whole organization. Nah, you need to change, you need to affect your squad, your 6 people or your team, the 6 people on your team, get them together first. And then they will by default get the other 6 people in the other squad. Then that platoon will get better, or squad by squad to platoon. Then the whole organizational culture changes. People just get so stuck and so daunted on, like, oh, I need to change this whole thing. No, take it piece by piece.
Great, man. That is so great. And you don't have to have a million views per video to truly be influencing the whole world. You can influence the whole world. Like you said, just focusing on your group of 6 people can change the whole organization over time. I don't know if you heard of the square, what is it called? The square root law, I think, when it comes to businesses. Basically, the square root of 1,000 people that works for an organization do have to work. I'm not sure if this is completely analogous to what we're talking about here, but I guess it kind of is, because if half the people in your organization, no, the square root of 1,000 people, so I think that's like, I don't know, I think that's like 100 people or so, or 300 people, I think, but they're doing half the work in your organization. That means that small group has major influence over the vast majority of the people who work for it. You know what I'm saying? So just going back to your 6 people, those 6 people can have a major influence. It starts with you, but you trickling down to those 6 trickling down to those 12, and so on, could just change everything, man. People really underestimate the value of just one person, the power of one person. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's
like the biggest commodity that we have, the most valuable thing we have on the planet Earth is people.
Yes.
Because an animal's not going to solve problems.
No.
A person is.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That's an important distinction right there. We are not the same as animals. Like some people believe we are, but we are obviously set apart from our animal friends.
These things.
Yes.
These things.
Yes, sir. And this thing up here too. But great, man. I really like that. Let's go to lesson number 16, which is one step at a time. Every journey of 1,000 steps starts with one and continues one step there forward. Usually for us humans, we try and bite off more than we can chew, and that's how we fail. But if we start step by step, we can achieve almost anything. During pre-Ranger, BOLC, I learned this very early. I failed my first 2 5-mile trials, but I took a step back and broke it down step by step, made a plan, and in the end, I ran a 37-minute, 30-second 5-mile, my fastest ever, and was ultimately selected to attend Ranger School. That is the fastest 5-mile I ever ran, and it's due to taking it one step at a time. Us as human, well, me starting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, when we're going through lessons, we are instructed to go through one step at a time. You know what I mean? We see the setup, we get the grips, and then we initiate the move. One step at a time. And even when we're babies, we first crawl. You know what I mean? That's the first step. We learn to stand up. But then we eventually walk, and then we eventually run. Each step at a time. So my question to you, man, are us as human beings, are we just engineered to break things down one step at a time? And when we try, like you said, to bite off, when we try to leap and skip steps, that's when we stumble. We're just made, our brains are just operated to go through a specific process. What do you think about that?
We're made to trial and error, to like try and fail. Like I don't think, not I don't think, I know this for a fact. This is the fact. No one's ever attempted something their first time and been perfect at it. Like you may have had one thing that you've attempted that you've been pretty good at, but not perfect. Yesterday was my second time going swinging a golf club. The first time, I think I only swung it 5 times, and that was it. And I figured something out. Like every time I do something, I go, "Oh, this is what I did last time. Let me see. Okay, learn from like heuristics. This is what I'm supposed to do now. This is the thing that works better for me." But as human beings, you can see it now, like with all the wars that we fought in like the Middle East. Like what has been 22 years. 22 years is a long time to be in a war. And essentially we bit off more than we could chew because we tried to go from Iraq campaign. No, actually, we went from Afghanistan first. We campaigned to Iraq, and then we focused on Syria. Then we went, oh, Syria's fucked up. Okay, let's go back to Afghanistan. Let's focus there. Your scope is too big. It's like my job. I deal with like budgets, contractual obligations for engineers, and like statement of project objectives. That's like the core of what I do. It's essentially a binding contract that goes, hey, this is the work you're going to do. This is the time scale that you're going to do it. Here are the milestones. And I literally break it down step by step, what they're doing in this budget period, that budget period, the next budget period. And when people, because I've caught this a bunch of times, they have like 6 milestones in one budget period. That's a lot. And a budget period can be like a year, 6 months, 18 months. And I have to tell them, hey, put on some blinders, man, change your scope. So the scope of what you're seeing, like narrow it down to just this one topic on there, and you'll be more successful. And they go, well, I'm like, no, listen to me. I've done this long enough. I've seen it fail. Please do this. And they do it, and they go, oh, man, I appreciate you helping us narrow this scope a little bit. But by default, we as humans want to please people. We want to do the most with the least amount of resources. That's like how business works. No one wants to spend a ton of resources doing a thing. So, we get wrapped up a lot in what the end goal is, the big picture, and we don't think about the tiny steps that happen. If we go back and we think about the tiny steps, we're usually more successful.
Great, man. Excellent. And it goes back basically to the last thing we talked about being small and having the impact. Narrow down your influence. Narrow down the people who are watching. Like there's 3 people watching right now. We can focus on them. They go out and eventually expand to something big. If we're trying to offset that and skip the process and go on to a bunch of other views or whatever, we're missing essential steps in the end, and it could cause us all from. We have to have a solid foundation, right?
Yep.
Right, man. Right. Awesome stuff, bro. What number are we on, man? Number 17.
17.
Know your purpose, your why. I'm sorry.
Pursue.
Know or pursue your why. I'm sorry. It's still pretty early for me. Often we set off on new endeavors and do so without a why. We fail usually. There are rare occasions when we don't. Pursue your purpose. Why we do things is just as important as doing them, because without that purpose, you cannot sustain the task too long. The thought will cross your mind 100% of the time. Why am I doing this? Is it worth it? How bad do I want it? A why is an important key to keeping the beaten path. And I wanted to just get your thoughts on this. You have a son, you have a daughter, you have a fiance, so a future wife. You have to take care of them. You have to feed them. You have to provide for them. You have to do all these things for them. So these are essentially they are essentially your responsibilities. there are people out there who don't have what you have. There are people out there like me. I don't have a wife. I don't have any children. And I'm only really providing for myself, which should be enough, which is enough. But do you think, my question, do you think by adding responsibilities to your life will help give you that why, so to speak, to keep pursuing your endeavors?
I think as we grow up and because man, I'm a kid raising kids. Let's be honest. Like we all are. We don't know what the perfect formula is for raising kids. I have no clue. When you do have a kid, you're gonna be like, oh shit, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Why is this thing crying? Oh, what you just do? You go, oh, let me hold it. Let me check its diaper. Just like it's all experiment, man. You don't know. You have no clue.
Yeah.
But I think with time you get more responsibilities. Like you get a mortgage, you get a dog. Like start with a dog. Get a dog. Get an animal to take care of first before you move on to the whole children aspect, you know. But I have my Metcons, right? My training shoes, my Nikes, and what I did was this past weekend, not this weekend, but last weekend, I went down and I took my kids and we went on this long road trip and we did all these things, saw all these things. My daughter pooed in her pants by accident because she trusted a fart. This is going to be here forever, and I'm going to have it as evidence to use against him when she turns 16. But yeah, like we did all those things, and I had them sign my shoes. I had them just write as much as they wanted on my shoes. They take a magic marker, different colors, a white one and a black one. They can write whatever they want. I always had these thoughts in my head that the reason why I'm doing this is for them because, you know, if I do this, the relevancy of what I do, I get a better reputation in the CrossFit space. This management thing keeps going and more resources come our way. That's the way that I think. I don't think just singularly, oh, this is this stupid thing that I'm doing. I think about how it could benefit me in the long term, like when I'm done doing CrossFit, because the day will come where I won't be able to do all this stuff anymore. Maybe to do a little, but not a lot. But I don't think necessarily you need to bring forth responsibility on purpose to develop a reason of why you're doing it. Quite literally, the reason why you do jujitsu could be for therapy. Like for you, it could be for therapy. It could be because you just love it. Like that's a good why, because you love doing something and you're going to try to be good at it. The other one could be that, you know, it's difficult. Like I don't think people realize, for anybody that's listening out there, whoever will listen to this, if you do something difficult every day, like something that's challenging every day, it will make you a better person. Like each day that I go into the gym and I go work out, I go, oh, I sit down and go, why am I doing this? Okay, I'm doing this because I want to be fit. Okay, why else am I doing this? I'm doing this because it's difficult. Okay, I'm doing this because it helps me with depression and PTSD. Okay, cool. Those are my 3 reasons for the day. It could change the next day. I could be like, I want to do this because the competition is coming up and I want to be better. That's fine too, but that why will change. But you always need to have a reason why you're doing something, because if you don't, you're essentially not going to be able to sustain it across the test of time.
Yes. Great, man. That is great. Don't just add responsibilities just for the sake of doing it. You know, that's just going to cause so much stress to your life. But the responsibilities that you do have, they can be a why for you. And like you said, the whys can change. You know what I mean? And you're absolutely right, man. Some days I go to my jiu-jitsu classes to get anger and stress off my chest. So I go and beat people up for that. And in a nice way, I'm not out to hurt anybody or anything. But I go and we roll, you know, and it's a good stress relief. Other days I want to get better on technique. You know what I mean? So I'm there, so I want to make sure I know this move correctly. So those whys definitely can change over your life, man. And I'm sorry that your daughter did that to you, bro. That is devastating.
No, she's 3 and she knows she's potty trained. Like she knows. She just thought she had to fart. She shit herself. Like, and then she looked at me and my son like we did it. Like we pooped in her pants and pulled her pants up. And I'm like, girl, no, it wasn't me. It was you. And then the entire time she's sitting in the back seat in the car seat, looking out the window like I don't want to talk to any of y'all.
I want to talk
to you. It's smoke. Okay, I was like, okay.
Excellent, man. The drama with the girls, man. Awesome, bro. We got a few more lessons to go, man. Let's run through them. Number 18 is regret nothing. Now I like this. Regretting nothing is one of the hardest things to do in life, but it's key to growth. We exist between the past and the future. Depression is about the past, and anxiety about the future. This is like being a rubber band, and eventually it will break. But the key to not breaking is to learn from the past and look forward to the future. This means having little to no regrets, or realizing that falling short is a lesson learned, not a failure. And this one hit me right here, man, because I have regrets. I have regrets, and people say you shouldn't have any, but I do, man. I do, because there are things that I did, things that I said, things that I didn't do that I think about, and I'm like, man, if I could go back in time and fix that, my life will be so much better.
Stop.
I mean, I think that, but that's not a guarantee at all, right? That's not a guarantee at all.
No, no, not at all. I don't know. It's just a lot. I guess it's a lot of therapy. I've went through like 2 years of intensive outpatient therapy and talked to a therapist quite often. And the biggest thing that I have gotten from it is to write down the things that I feel. Like, write that shit down. Write down the past. Don't get concerned about too much of the things in the future, because you can't really control much that happens in the future except for setting up your present. And if you try to do more on either other end, you're going to keep pulling yourself, and you can only be stretched so thin. Like, you can only be stretched so thin. And a good way to kind of not get over, but to cope with the regrets you have in the past is just be mindful. Like, I try not to say anything. I try not to burn any bridges. Well, I try not to say anything to someone that's super hurtful. Like, I try to keep their feelings in mind, because I have feelings and I don't want anybody to hurt those feelings. For better or worse, we're fallible as humans. Like, we are, but it takes a really centered and grounded person to go, hey, I messed up. Let me make amends for this fuck up, for lack of a better term. And how can we move forward? If it means that we take two different paths and we never speak to each other again, that's fine. But I just want to get some closure to this. I want to make sure that you know what I meant, or, how I felt about this thing when I said it. So the regret portion is, there are going to be things you regret. There are. But the thing that you said was, I wish I could go back in time. Nah, I stopped doing that like 2 years ago. I was like, man, I wish I had started doing CrossFit earlier. No, you are where you are. The one thing you can't, like, if we could sell time, if time was like a currency and we could sell it, dude, you wouldn't be able to afford it. Nobody would be able to afford it. Only the richest 1% in the world will be able to afford time. And don't take that time for granted. Kind of let what happened, let it kind of have happened, learn from it, and move on.
Great, man. And like I said, even if that was possible to go back in time, and you did change that one thing, I mean, you wouldn't. Also, you wouldn't do. I mean, but even if you hypothetically could do it, it's not like it fixes everything now. It's not a guarantee that that one mistake you made is going to fix everything, so your life will be just 100% better. I mean, there are other variables.
It's like the butterfly. Yeah, it's the butterfly effect. You fix this thing. Who says that like 10 minutes down the road you don't fuck something else up, and then your whole life is worse because you try to fix this one thing? Like, no.
Yeah, exactly. That was great stuff, man. We got two more. Stop. Lesson 19. Stop and smell the roses. Getting wrapped up in life and all our pursuits is an easy trap to fall in. Often, like in sports, we need to rest. We need a rest period or deload. This is intrinsically looking back and seeing where you started versus where you have come from, and stopping to smell the roses. Enjoying the fruits of your labors. Give yourself some grace and smell them from time to time. And yeah, man, I agree. I didn't have a question for this. I couldn't think of one, but I did want to give an example. If you don't mind talking about it, that'd be great. I did the here in Colorado Springs. For those who don't know, there's a trail called the Manitou Incline, which goes up the side of a mountain, like a mile high on the side of a mountain called Pikes Peak here in Colorado Springs. And I've done it like, I don't know, like 50 times. Most of the time I do it, I just try to, get up there. I want to get up there as fast as possible. So I'm just pushing it, and I'm exhausted because it's brutal. But I'm doing it, and I'm going up, and I'm really just focusing on getting up there. But there are times when I stop, and you can turn around, and you can basically see the whole city of Colorado Springs, and it's just a beautiful view. The mountains, the sunset, the horizon area. It's just absolutely beautiful. And just like in your lesson here made me think about that. When we're so focused on making it to the top that we rarely just stop and see where we at and where we came from. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think?
Mm-hmm. I think the first time I heard someone say this was my friend Jared Enderton. He's coming on our podcast, me and Steve's podcast. Was it Thursday? And we're going to publish it the same day. But he used to be my weightlifting coach, and so Jackie Ong was the first weightlifting coach I had. She gave me a lot of tools, and then I went to Jared. He explained stuff a different way, and somehow it made a lot of sense. I don't know. It just, how you go from one person to the next, and then somehow someone could be saying the same thing as another person, and all of a sudden it just clicks. You're like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jared, I was having issues with like my snatch. Snatch is the hardest movement for me. Like it's the most difficult because my left shoulder, my labrum's in two pieces. So it's kind of hard to stabilize. But I was like oh, I need to do more. I need to do this. I would miss a day. And I'm like, oh, let me stack these 2 days on top of each other because he programs for Invictus weightlifting. And, and he was like, Kenya, stop. I was like, okay. He's like, look, just sit back and realize where you were. When you first came here, you essentially couldn't, snatch 200 pounds. Now you're snatching like 250, 260. That's good. Like that's plenty of progress. And I was like, he's like, so stop and smell the roses. And I was like, oh, okay. And I changed my perspective from I got to always do something to if I just do this thing with quality, eventually an outcome that I want will happen. And I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be all right.
Yes. Yes. I go back and even my jiu-jitsu journey. I go back and watch my old videos, man. I'm so much better than I was back then. It's really ridiculous, And I have bad days in the gym when I get beat up still, and I'm like, man, I let that happen. I let this happen. I gotta do better. Man, when you think about where you come from, when you actually smell the roses, it makes everything better, man. It puts things in perspective a whole lot more.
That's the thing, like perspective. And I realized that I grew up on a pig farm. My mom made $15,000 a year. I make a ton more than that now. And I go, how in the hell did she raise me on 15 grand a year? Like I went from somewhere where people usually don't leave the neighborhood to now I'm doing great in my life. Like I have things, I have resources. Like this is the first year I booked out my whole summer to take trips and go do things. And that's what I'm doing.
It's a blessing, man. I'm so happy for you, bro. That's awesome. That's awesome. This is the last lesson for today. And I think it's a great way to end the show for today. And it's lesson number 20. One thing we have in common is death. Our common disease as humans is death. Let that sink in for a moment. With this 100% guarantee externally, what story will you tell? What will you do with the time you have on this earth? Are you doing this to facilitate growth or to become famous? Which is more important, giving or letting go? In the letting go, we have more time to dedicate to building. Build and leave something good behind when you go. And I wanted to ask you this about that. Does knowing you're going to die make you feel anxious? And there's I Googled, this one made me think, and I just went on Google after I read it. And there's an actual term for that called It's called death anxiety. People
Yeah.
get diagnosed with that. And there's
Yeah.
actually another form of that that goes a step further, which is called thano, thanatophobia. I think that's how you pronounce it.
You said it right. You said it right.
And
Yeah, you said it right.
it's the irrational or extreme fear of death. So you
People
got the
keep themselves
regular,
locked inside.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like it's a step further than just having death anxiety. And my question for you, bro, to end the show on, how do you deal with the thought of dying? And does knowing your why help you cope with it?
Let me start here, like from like sixth to seventh grade. My grandma, my grandfather passed first. He was a really big influence in my life because he worked until he was about 78. He died when he was 82. Um, like he was a big influence. If I ever needed anything, I could go to him and he'd open his wallet and give me whatever I needed. If I wanted to go get candy, he's like, "You going to the store?" He's like, "Here's $5. Go and get yourself, some candy or whatever." And we'd ride our bikes 2 miles to the little general store that was right there on the loop that we live in called Douglas Loop, and we would go get candy and all that stuff. He passed away, and I didn't know what type of damage that did to me until until I like addressed it in therapy like 2 years ago. I had a fear of death from like sixth grade to seventh grade. And the thing that made me get over it was essentially sitting down and talking to a therapist and realizing how irrational it was. Like, you cannot change that. You cannot change the fact that you were going to die. But it really means a lot when you do things on this earth that are good for other people. So it's kind of a stewardship thing. And if you notice, anybody listening notice, all these things are written in order. They have order to them. They kind of flow along. It's like a good flow. It doesn't really break off and go, "Oh, here's some other random idea." Random. No, it doesn't work that way. My brain doesn't work that way. Um, so I had an irrational fear of death. It's funny because I was a really fearful kid all the way through high school. I didn't really take many chances. The only chance I took was playing basketball. That paid off for me, got me through college, and then I joined the Army. Went to college and joined the Army, which is like the closest to death you could be is being in the military, outside of doing other like illegal activities or whatever. But yeah, I at that point when I realized when I joined the Army, I had a drill sergeant tell me that like you just signed a blank check you just signed your life over. You signed a blank check to the U.S. government, and that means a lot to all of us. But in saying that means a lot to all of us, you're here, and we're gonna essentially change you, transform you. And I at that point I realized, oh fuck, like it's okay. I'm gonna probably go on a deployment. I could die. I could be alive. What am I doing right now that is gonna leave a better place or more resources for my children? And I realized me being in the Army would give them a sense of pride, that would give them an income because I didn't really have an income because I was an intern at FedEx for a bit and I didn't pay anything. Um, and I worked at Sears, but they have an income, they have life insurance, they'll have health insurance, all these things. And I'm like, as long as they're taken care of, I'm okay. And that goes back to that whole why thing. They are why I do all the things I do. When I leave this earth, I want my kids to have a good start at life. I don't want them to have everything. Like, nope, I don't want to leave them all these things where they don't have to work for it, but I want them to have a good start and I want them to be able to see what I did so they could have a good life, so they can do the same for their kids and they keep passing it along and passing it along. But I don't have a fear of death. I ride I have a motorcycle. I was riding yesterday. I think I did like 142 when Tam hears this, she's going to kill me. Yeah, like 142. I go mountain biking down mountains. I, put all this weight over my head, knowing if it fell on me, it could like crush my spine. But that's what makes life taste better is the risk. That risk makes life so much more worth living and so much more valuable because what you don't want to do is be 40, 50 years old or 60 years old and go, "Man, I wish I had tried that." And you can't. You don't have the physical capability to. You might or you might not, but yeah, I'm not scared of dying. I don't care if there's anything on the other side or not. Like, it doesn't bother me. What I do now is I live my life every day like it is my last day. I'm responsible, with my money and everything, but like if there's something I want to do or something I want to eat, I'm gonna do it. I got my kids their first like very expensive steak this past couple of weekends, and they were like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And they're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "This is what you can have if you work hard enough." And they were like, "Oh, okay." And I don't think it registered, but it's something.
That's beautiful, man. And very inspirational for me. And I hope whoever hears it, I hope it inspires them too, man. And that's why I do this podcast. I do this show to speak to people like you, to share their experiences and their perspective on things. And that was great. That was great. That was the last lesson for today, man. We got to schedule part 3, but I feel like that was just a great way to end it. And thank you for sharing all that you shared, man. Any way that any information you want to give, if someone wants to contact you or speak to you and connect with you, what do you have?
Yeah, I got Instagram. It's right here if you're watching. It's in there. I'm pretty sure you'll probably tag it in the YouTube description up under there.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy Steve have a podcast called "It's Not All Black and White," and between black and white is a letter N with an apostrophe. We're literally on every podcast platform. We put every episode up on YouTube. It's under the same exact name. I'm managing or I'm helping with athlete management with Mind Over Matter, me and another guy, Rashard Barksdale. You can look us up on Instagram. We have a website as well. Any competitive CrossFitters out there that think they have a shot at getting to the games next year or semifinal, hit us up, let us know. We'll try to do what we can to help you. That's basically it. All my information is on my Instagram. You can reach out to me anytime and I'll answer.
Bro, man, you are amazing, man. Amazing person, man. Truly inspirational, bro. And I'm happy to have met you. And I appreciate your time today, man.
Oh yeah, same here. I appreciate every encounter I have with every human being that I have, and dude, you're doing something good here. Just keep doing it. It may seem slow at first, but people start to catch on and they'll start watching. I promise.
Bro, that means a lot to me, man. It really does. I appreciate you, man. But God bless you, bro. You have a great rest of your day, and we'll definitely talk soon, man.
You too. Take it
Yes,
easy,
sir.
dude.